Emotional pain often becomes more intense, not because it is unbearable, but because it is resisted. From an early age, many people learn that uncomfortable emotions should be pushed away, hidden, or quickly fixed. Sadness is seen as weakness, anger as something to control, and fear as something to outgrow. As a result, when emotional pain arises, the mind reacts with tension. It tightens, judges, and tries to escape the feeling instead of understanding it. This resistance creates an inner conflict where the emotion is no longer just felt, but fought. Buddhist teachings suggest that this struggle is what deepens suffering. When pain is suppressed, it does not disappear. It moves inward. It lingers beneath the surface and often returns in stronger, more disruptive forms such as anxiety, irritability, emotional numbness, or constant mental unrest. The more forcefully an emotion is denied, the more power it gains over the mind. Resistance also separates a person from the present moment. Instead of experiencing what is happening now, the mind becomes consumed with avoiding discomfort. In this state, healing cannot occur. Emotional pain softens only when it is acknowledged without judgment. By allowing pain to exist rather than battling it, the mind relaxes. In that relaxation, clarity begins, and suffering slowly loses its intensity. Buddhism teaches that awareness and acceptance are the foundations of healing, especially when it comes to emotional pain. Rather than trying to change or eliminate difficult feelings, Buddhist practice encourages observing them with calm attention. This awareness is not analytical or critical. It is gentle and present. By noticing emotions as they arise without labeling them as good or bad, the mind creates space between the feeling and the self. Pain is no longer something that defines who you are, but something that is being experienced. Acceptance in this context does not mean resignation or passivity. It means recognizing reality as it is in this moment. When emotional pain is acknowledged instead of denied, it stops demanding attention through force. Buddhism views suffering as something that can be understood, and through understanding, transformed. Awareness allows a person to see how emotions change, how they rise and fall, and how they are not permanent. This practice shifts the relationship with pain. Instead of reacting with fear or resistance, the mind learns to stay steady. Over time, this steady presence weakens the grip of suffering. Healing begins not by controlling emotions, but by meeting them with openness. Through awareness and acceptance, emotional pain becomes something that can pass through the mind, rather than something that stays and overwhelms it. Allowing pain to exist is one of the most challenging yet transformative teachings in Buddhism. When emotional pain arises, the instinctive response is often to distract, numb, or analyze it away. However, Buddhism suggests that pain tightens its grip only when it is treated as something that must be removed immediately. When pain is allowed to be present without urgency, without judgment, and without the demand to change it, its intensity naturally begins to soften. This allowance creates a sense of inner spaciousness. Instead of being completely consumed by the emotion, the mind observes it as a passing experience. Pain is felt, but it is no longer overwhelming. Like holding water in an open palm rather than a clenched fist, the emotion has room to move. In this space, the nervous system relaxes, and the mind stops amplifying the suffering through fear and resistance. Buddhist practice emphasizes that emotions are impermanent. When pain is allowed, it reveals its changing nature. It rises, lingers for a time, and eventually fades. Suppression interrupts this natural cycle, trapping the emotion in the body and mind. Allowance restores flow. Over time, this gentle permission weakens the emotional charge and builds resilience. Pain no longer feels like something that will last forever, but like a wave that can be met, felt fully, and allowed to pass. Non-judgmental presence is a central element of Buddhist healing, because judgment adds a second layer of suffering to emotional pain. When difficult emotions arise, the mind often reacts by criticizing the feeling or the self for having it. Thoughts such as, "I shouldn't feel this way," or "something is wrong with me," create shame and resistance. Buddhism teaches that this mental commentary intensifies suffering far more than the original emotion itself. By practicing non-judgmental presence, the mind learns to stay with an experience exactly as it is. This presence is calm, curious, and kind. Instead of labeling emotions as acceptable or unacceptable, they are simply observed. In this state, pain is no longer personal or threatening. It is just a phenomenon arising in awareness. This shift changes the relationship with suffering. The emotion may still be uncomfortable, but it loses its power to define or overwhelm the individual. Through this presence, insight naturally emerges. One begins to notice patterns, triggers, and the impermanent nature of emotions. Understanding replaces confusion, and compassion replaces self-blame. Over time, this gentle awareness transforms suffering into wisdom. Emotional pain becomes a doorway to deeper self-understanding, rather than something to fear or avoid.